getting a jump on BRD and BVD ASAP with AIDs. See what I did there? We talk management, we talk products, news, market recaps, and more. Crew, let's ranch it up. Good day, everyone, and thanks for riding with us on this all-new episode of the Ranch It Up Radio Show. I'm Jeff Tigger Earhart.
And I'm Rebecca Warner, a.k.a. Beck.
Hey, big thank you goes out to our partners, RanchChannel.com, Transova Genetics, Axiota, Multimin, and Lactapro, Stockman's Livestock Exchange, the American Gelbvieh Association, Imogene Ingredients and Pharmatan, Westway Feed Products, Medora Boot and Western Wear, Allied Genetic Resources and Allied Feeding Partners, LivestockMarket.com, EquineMarket.com, AuctionTime.com, RFD TV, Wrangler, and this fine radio station. Cow Country News, you know, the cow stuff.
Our first story, following Iowa's first positive case of HPAI, highly pathogenic avian influenza, in dairy cattle in early June, Iowa has reported 4 new cases in its northwest region. According to the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, influenza was detected in 3 dairy cattle herds in Sioux County and 1 in neighboring Plymouth County. Both northwest counties border O'Brien County, where Iowa's first dairy cattle influenza case was reported June 6th. At the time, Iowa was the 10th state to confirm HPAI in dairy cows. The nationwide outbreak of the avian virus in dairy has struck nearly 100 herds across 12 states. Next, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz and U.S. Representative Ronnie Jackson introduced the Livestock Indemnity Program Enhancement Act to help Texas livestock producers to recover from the devastating wildfires that occurred in the Texas Panhandle earlier this year. This bill would require the U.S. Department of Agriculture to establish an additional payment rate through the Livestock Indemnity Program for excessive unborn livestock death losses, according to the Texas Cattle Feeders Association. Our last story, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, NCBA, issued a statement condemning a Department of Defense-sponsored research grant that will fund the development of cell-cultivated meat products by manufacturing company Biomade. NCBA Vice President of Government Affairs Ethan Lane said, "It is outrageous that the Department of Defense is spending millions of taxpayer dollars to feed our heroes like lab rats. U.S. cattle producers raise the highest quality beef in the world with the lowest carbon footprint, and American troops deserve to be served the same wholesome natural meat and not ultra-processed lab-grown protein that is cooked up in a chemical-filled bioreactor." He went on to say, "This misguided research project is a giant slap in the face to everyone that has served our country. Our veterans and active duty troops deserve so much better than this." Biomade is described as a public-private biomanufacturing consortium sponsored by the U.S. Department of Defense. That's a wrap for the news. This is Rebecca Warner, a.k.a. Beck, for the Ranch It Up Radio Show.
Recapping the Superior Livestock Corn Belt Classic sale from last week, everybody was watching this one to kind of get a gauge on the market. We have all of the information, the market recap, specific links to weight classes. All of those links are easily accessible at ranchitupshow.com. Check it out in the show notes. I'm not going to go through every single state and every single weight class. You'll have to check that out at ranchitupshow.com. This is just kind of a general recap starting out in Region 1. These are Idaho-based steers, 5 to 5.5 weight selling for $320, 7 to 7.5 weight steers at $254. Moving on to Region 2, which is Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Nebraska, North and South Dakota, and Utah. 6.5 to 7 weight steers from Montana, $266 to $301. 7 to 7.5 weight steers in Montana, $278.5 to $293. 9 to 9.5 weight steers from Wyoming at $244, and then 9.5 up to 1,000 weight steers at $251. A particular draft of 975 weight all black steers originating from Lander, Wyoming, sold for $251. That is just a tick under $2,450 a head. Moving on into Region 3, which is Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Texas steers 6 to 6.5 weights at $262 up to $3. 6.5 to 7 weights at $259 up to $285. 7 to 7.5 weight steers in Oklahoma at $267. 7.5 to 8 weight steers back in Texas, 240 to 242. 8 to 8.5 weight steers from Texas, 232 up to 257. 8.5 to 9 weight steers in Louisiana at 230.5, and then 9 to 9.5 weight steers back in Oklahoma at 223.5 to 239.75. Region 4, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois, 6 to 6.5 weight steers from Missouri at 259.5 to 221. 6.5 to 7 weight steers in Kansas, $3 up to 309.5. 7 to 7.5 weights in Missouri at 292, and then 7.5 to 8 weight steers back in Kansas at 248 to 269. Region 5, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama. Florida cattle, 6 to 6.5 weights at 266, and then 6.5 to 7 weights at 245. And then wrapping up with Region 6, Tennessee, Kentucky, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Virginia, West Virginia, North and South Carolina. 6 to 6.5 weight steers in Michigan at 295, and then 8 to 8.5 weight steers in Tennessee and Kentucky at 255. All that information in detail is at ranchitupshow.com in the show notes. Coming up, we talk managing BRD and BVD. The Ranch It Up Radio Show will be back after this. It doesn't matter about what we're talking about in cow herd management. We know that it all stems from nutrition, and I've been telling you all about Pharmatan for a number of years now. Pharmatan from Imogene Ingredients, it's the natural way to boost your cow herd's nutrition, to boost your calf's nutrition, get better breed back. And now that we're in breeding season, improve gut health, improve feed efficiency. Isn't it time to give Pharmatan a try? For more information, just head to pharmatanusa.com. The newest additions to ranchchannel.com. Check out ISA Beefmasters and their sale coming up October 5th. Plus, feeder and live cattle futures, corn, wheat, and bean futures, and more. It's your Farm and Ranch Network on demand. Head to ranchchannel.com. Breeding season is here, and maybe you haven't made all of your decisions yet. Maybe you're looking to AI some cows or some heifers. Turn to Allied Genetic Resources. Top quality semen from elite bulls, and get those calves that fetch higher prices and thrive in today's competitive market. With Allied Genetic Resources, you're investing in a stronger, more profitable future. Visit Allied Genetic Resources today and start maximizing your herd's potential. With over 50,000 head marketed annually, Allied Genetic Resources.
Cattle market reports to various news stories, the Tri-State Livestock News covers it all. Check us out at tsln.com. Subscriptions or advertising, call Tracy Hawk at 406-951-3211. The Tri-State Livestock News, what ranchers read.
Welcome back to the Ranch It Up Radio Show. It's the most information packed into a 30-minute program that you can find. It's your all things ranching newscast, and so glad to be hanging out with y'all. Questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, rants, it doesn't matter. Give us a call, or you can text us at 707-RANCH20. That's 707-726-2420. Our email, ranchitupshow@gmail.com. Prowling around social media at Ranch It Up Show. Last week, we discussed one of the biggest enemies of our calves, some of the biggest enemies, and that is bovine respiratory disease, BRD, and bovine virus diarrhea, BVD. When cattle get stressed from traveling or commingling or other factors, disease starts to manifest within the group. We identified a few management practices when it comes to working with sick cattle. So today, let's bring in Dave Saklocha, a technical services veterinarian. Bring him back in one more time with Merck Animal Health and continue that conversation. Dave, thanks so much for coming back on the program. Let's first start out by talking Merck Animal Health's ALLFLEX CleanVax. It's a system of nozzles and shields that help intranasal vaccinations for cattle. It helps administer faster, more hygienic, kind of makes it a little bit easier. And then let's go into some additional management practices.
Merck has got a line of intranasal vaccines. And you say easy to administer. That's always kind of been the challenge with intranasal vaccines, is that they're not that easy to administer. But some of the reason why is because the prior way of administering those was a long, fairly good-sized cannula that you stick up the nose and then squirt it in there. we've developed.
And you never knew if it actually was going into them. Was a problem with that, is what we're talking about.
Yep, and everybody that has given an intranasal vaccine says, well, half of it runs out on the ground. Well, and I'll tell you from Merck perspective, and every other pharmaceutical company would also say this, is there's still enough vaccine administered that to cause an immune reaction. But this new CleanVax is what we call it. It's a tip that'll fit on any syringe, and you could administer our nasogen vaccines, our bovilis coronavirus vaccines, all of them with this CleanVax tip. And it does what we call atomizes the vaccine. It sprays it in a finer mist into that nasal passage, and that way it helps that mucous membrane grab onto more of it. And that's really what we need. And it doesn't take long for that mucous membrane to get a hold of it and start producing interferon and start producing an immune response. And
it's the same darn thing that we use when we get sinus infections. It's the exact same thing as what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And the neat thing about this new tip is it comes with a plastic shield that's easy to take off and put on. So if you want to change it between animals, it's very simple to do. And it kind of depends on what your biosecurity risk would be, how often you wanted to change it. At a feed yard, it'd probably be best if you did change it between every animal, but on a cow-calf operation where all the calves are kind of exposed to each other, it may not be as necessary to change it between every animal.
Now, I can understand when people have been frustrated when giving those nasal injections. But here's my perspective in my dad and I really kind of get into the whole philosophy of the cattle handling. But I can say it from many years, I would rather administer that vaccine, that medicine, nasal, through the nose, because it's a little less invasive. And let's just be honest, I've enjoyed having these conversations of how we're comparing our calves to a hospital bed, our calves to a hotel. We're comparing, medicines that are available for humans. The less invasive that we can be and the less traumatic experience that animal, I don't care if it's a calf feedlot, I don't care if it's a cow that you got to pull a calf, the less traumatic that experience is when we're handling them, that we've got them in a chute, the more likely that their bodies will respond to whatever kind of medicine that we're giving them.
Absolutely. And I think that's key. It all goes back to, like I say, just good animal husbandry. You mentioned bedding a little earlier, and I'm a big fan of bedding. Most of my career has been spent in the western Kansas and Texas Panhandle area, working with feed yards. And one of the things that it's fairly dry out there. And so we kind of became accustomed to thinking, well, they've got a dry place to lay down, so we don't need to bed. And it's amazing to me if you would just take half your receiving pens and bed them, how many of the calves will lay down and rest on that bedding as opposed to calves that will remain standing in pens that weren't bedded. Just adds a little extra comfort. And as you say, anything we can do to reduce the stress is going to be a benefit to those calves responding to the products we do administer.
Now, I may be diving down a rabbit hole, but we're having just too darn much fun here because we're talking about a number of different management practices, and you mentioned management before medicine. I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to stress that to y'all for the next 10 years. But now when we're talking about bedding, we're getting into a very interesting topic. I want to dive down this rabbit hole a little bit. We're talking about settling cattle. That is an art form when it comes to feeding cattle. Now, I'm going to try to describe it to y'all like this, is that when we have cattle that come up to the bunk, we want them to be active and coming to the bunk. I'm talking about a feeding scenario, and we want them to consume their feed. Obviously, that means gain. But now what we want those cattle to do is after they're done, we want them to physically settle, to relax. It's what you and I do after the ball game, right? I mean, we had our turkey and our pizza, and we want to settle. There is an art form, and there's a huge correlation that I believe when you're talking about bedding with these calves and training cattle. You got to train cattle to settle. It takes some time. But Now, there we have data on of the tremendous amount of dollars that can be lost when we don't start to teach our cattle to settle after they eat, and having that bedding is huge, economically that huge. You wouldn't think about taking a straw bale in there and having your son go out there and spread it around a little bit, but that is enormous when it comes to actual conversion of a protein into gain per day.
Absolutely, and especially in feed yards, the thing I always encouraged our crews to do was have that bedding in the pen. I mean, we knew when cattle were going to be coming in, so have that bedding in the pen, have the receiving ration in the bunk, all that ready before the cattle get there. Because the first thing you want to do is as soon as you can earn those cattle's trust. And if you get them off the truck and you put them in a pen, then all of a sudden a loader drives in there and dumps a big bale of bedding down and starts spreading it around, you're going to scare the tar out of those calves. And then if a feed truck goes by, drops its chute and starts dumping feed in the bunk after the calves are in there, it's going to scare them to the back of the pen, and it's going to be a while before they come up to eat.
And think about the gain that you lose with that, the dollars that you lose from that.
Absolutely. So if they can have it all in there, so they can just come in that pen, lay down if they want, or explore the pen and find their feed and find their water, you're getting those calves off to a good start. And the other end of that is, if as soon as you start doing this, what I call acclimation, and I get that from Dr. Tom Knopfsinger, it's a phrase he uses a lot. But if you do that, you need to make sure the rest of your crew is aware of what you're trying to accomplish. Because if somebody else walks through that pen and scares the heck out of that cattle, you've got to start all over again. So it's a team effort. And like you say, that the acclimation, getting those cattle used to you, and there's some people, for whatever reason, they give off a vibe that cattle do not respond well to, and then there's others other people that they do respond well to. I was always able to walk through a pen of cattle quietly. I practiced with a veterinarian for a while that when he went to walk through a pen of cattle, they'd shoot to the back of the pen. And there's just some kind of a vibe that some folks give off. And so choose your people carefully, I guess is what I'm saying.
And I'm going to add into that, even when you talked about taking around bale in there, some of those calves have never been around a payload or a skid steer. Dogs is a big one. I'm big with dogs. A lot of cattle are not dog broke. Horses, ATVs, the same thing. So, I mean, just kind of bringing this thing full circle, circling back around, right, is kind of the common phrase. It's kind of a general theme is how would we want to be treated, right? And if we can nail that down, this is how you and I would like to be treated. If we apply those same principles to communicating with our staff of our objectives of what we would like to do, our goals of what we'd like to do, and then inadvertently communicating that to that pen of calves, we're kind of using that as an example, that just sets the whole situation up for success.
Yeah, it boils down to creating that culture you just described with your team. And if you promote this to your team, but they never see you following through and on what you just said, then they're not going to follow through. But if they know that you're committed, your team will be committed.
Dave Ciclocha, Technical Services Veterinarian with Merck Animal Health. We have covered a lot in the past couple of weeks, but it all comes down to just common sense, animal husbandry and stockmanship, but most importantly, just common sense. Now, for more on Merck Animal Health's ALLFLEX CleanVax system of nozzles and shields, head to merck-animal-health-usa.com. Got it? We have this information in the show notes at ranchitupshow.com, along with other quick links to Merck Animal Health's products and the ALLFLEX CleanVax system. Now it's time to take a quick break, and the Ranch It Up Radio Show will be back after this. Looking for the best way to raise healthy, productive beef? Try Westway Feed Products. Westway's liquid supplements boost forage utilization, efficiency, and sustainability, ensuring faster weight gain and better health. Visit westwayfeed.com or call 800-800-7517. Westway Feed Products, raising the bar in beef production. Gelbvieh and Balancer producers, seed stock and commercial, add genetic technology from the American Gelbvieh Association. They provide genetic tools to both seed stock and commercial producers. From being a part of the world's largest genetic evaluation and providing some of the most accurate EPDs in the industry to offering a wide variety of DNA tests, the AGA delivers its members and customers tools for success within the beef industry. Head to gelbvieh.org for more information from the American Gelbvieh Association. Want to add just a little bit of spice to your event, your customer appreciation supper, your banquet, your meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Well, bring in us, Beck and I, as your keynote speakers, hosts, MCs, a host couple. We'll make them laugh, even cry tears of joy. Call us today. Have y'all tried livestockmarket.com yet? We have updates each and every week. Brought to us by auctiontime.com. We're all familiar with that one. Try livestockmarket.com. And don't forget, for all your equine needs, head to equinemarket.com. A lot of you have been using ranchchannel.com to select your new herd sires. Well, coming soon, feeder and live cattle markets, corn, wheat, and bean futures, all at ranchchannel.com. And don't forget, lots of upcoming sales. Just head to ranchchannel.com.
If someone walked up to you and asked, "What's your family's legacy?" would you know how to answer? Hey, I'm Shay, and I'm the host of the Casual Cattle Conversations podcast. Vance Crowe and I had an insightful conversation about what legacy is and why it is important for farmers and ranchers to know their family legacy for personal and business reasons. Here's a little knowledge from Vance.
I think even for succession planning, right? Like, it's really good for people to know, what did mom and dad do to get this? What happened along the way? Because your farm is going to run into challenges, right? You will have to continue to grow and adapt, and knowing not just like, hey, dad said don't ever sell the farm, right? But like, what was dad willing to do when it came time for it to be very difficult for him and he wanted to sell the farm? Because then you can start to say, like, what could that roadmap be for me? And I think it really brings to life and brings a richness to the way that you can make decisions in the future that are in line with, like we talked about before, the legacy of your family. You have to know that legacy, and you have to know it by hearing their stories.
Listen to the full story by searching for Casual Cattle Conversations on your favorite podcast player. Happy ranching, folks.
I tip my hat to you, from one legend to another.
Now, before we say fare thee well, we want to give just a little bit of time to tell y'all about our Ranch It Up gear. We started with our swag. It was version 1 a couple years ago, and then we went to version 2, and we sold out of everything. And now we are on to version 3, so you can check it out at ranchitup.us. Beck, some of the stuff we got in there. What do we got?
Oh, I love our new site, ranchitup.us, because we are offering, yes, T-shirts. We've got tank tops for the ladies. We've got long sleeve shirts, and they're all the really nice Bella canvas material. They're super soft.
That's what everybody says. They love them because they're really, really, really soft. And so we've got those. We've got vests, I think, too, right?
Yes, we've got vests that are the wonderful soft shell with the inside fleece on them. They say ranch it up across the shoulders on the back. But then what's super neat is that you can also customize so that on your front left side there, you could say your ranch's brand, your ranch name, your name. You can do a little customization on your own Ranch It Up vest.
So you can head to ranchitup.us, and you can always email us, excuse me again, ranchitupshow@gmail.com. You can get a hold of us, but you can contact us directly through ranchitup.us if you have any questions. But also on there, Beck kind of twisted my arm on this because, as a lot of you know, I am the last of the few whip makers that's around. There are not a lot of us, and you have been on me and saying, you need to promote your work more. You need to show it off, and for the past several years, it's just I will braid them for people that know that I'm in the business of it, and that was kind of it. But you have really pushed me and said, you know what, you really have to promote some of your braiding work.
That is exactly right. So if you've been in the market for or been wanting to get yourself a new hybrid cow whip, now is your chance because Jeff Tigger Earhart, he's made them available. We have them online at ranchitup.us.
Now, on those whips, sorry, I'm cutting you off there, but there's some that I've already made, right? Those aren't spoken for?
We have a
They're still
couple
in
in
inventory?
surplus, so
Okay.
that's why I say go online, and then you can send in the request form, and we can also send you what's available that's ready to ship out the door today.
But they can do custom orders of
They can
color
do
and
6
lengths
foot,
and
8
all
foot,
of
10
everything that's
foot,
on.
yes.
Okay. And we've got some other tack that's on there. Everything we've got is handmade. We're going to be adding more stuff as we're going through, but this is our first run here, and we've got everything available at ranchitup.us, so check it out. And again, if you have any questions, just holler at Beck and I, and we'll try to answer those as best we can. Now, that being said, it is time to wrap it up for today. A big thanks from our crew to yours, starting off with Dr. Dave Saklocha from Merck Animal Health for part 2. Thank you so much. Shay Keister-Warner with Casual Cattle Conversations and the boss lady. I am tongue-tied this whole episode, aren't I? See, there I go again. The boss lady, Rebecca Warner, a.k.a. Beck.
That's all right. I've got your back there, Tigger. A big thank you to our partners, ranchchannel.com. Be sure to check out our new listings for ISA Beefmasters, and the markets are coming soon. Transova Genetics, Axiota, Multimin, and Lactopro, Stockman's Livestock Exchange, the American Galvy Association, Imogene Ingredients, Pharmatan, Westway Feed Products, Medora Boot and Western Wear, Allied Genetic Resources, Allied Feeding Partners, LivestockMarket.com, EquineMarket.com, AuctionTime.com, RFD TV, Wrangler, and this fine radio station.
And crew, so glad y'all came with us one more time as we ranch it up. Be sure to like and follow us on Facebook at Ranch It Up Show. Our email, think I could get it right this time, ranchitupshow@gmail.com. Did I get it right? I think
You
so.
did it.
You can call and text us anytime at 707-RANCH-20. That's 707-726-2420. Join us again next week where it's always Tigger and Beck approved.
Stay ranchy and ranch it up.